The research vessel hung in the darkness of space like a jewel. Inside, Dr. Hyun-woo stood before the largest gathering of alien scientists he had ever seen. His hands were steady, but his heart beat faster than usual. Today would determine if humanity could truly join the Galactic Concordat. Researcher Velenith moved closer to him. The insectoid's compound eyes reflected the lights of the observation room in 1,000 tiny fragments. Her species had studied biology for 10,000 years. She clicked her mandibles together, a sound Hyun-woo had learned meant curiosity. "Explain again," Velenith said. "Your species becomes unconscious for 8 hours every cycle?" Hyun-woo nodded. "We call it sleep. Our bodies need it to function." Around the room, the other aliens shifted. Some whispered to each other in languages that the translation devices struggled to convert. Ambassador Ji-won stood near the back wall, her arms crossed. She was older than Hyun-woo, with gray streaks in her black hair. She had fought in the border wars before becoming a diplomat. Now she watched the scientists with careful eyes. Tikro, the bird-like delegate from the feathered communion, spread his wings slightly. "This is madness. You render yourselves completely vulnerable? Every night?" "Yes," Hyun-woo said simply. "And during this time you cannot detect threats? Cannot respond to danger?" Tikro's feathers ruffled in what Hyun-woo recognized as distress. "That's correct." The room erupted in noise. Aliens of a dozen species all talked at once. Hyun-woo waited. He had expected this reaction. Humanity's need for sleep had been the biggest obstacle to their acceptance into the Concordat. How could they trust a species that shut down for a third of every day? Velenith raised one of her 4 arms. The room fell silent. "Dr. Hyun-woo has volunteered to be studied. We will monitor his brain during this sleep cycle. We will understand this phenomenon before making judgments." Ji-won stepped forward. "I volunteer as well, and I can provide 12 more human subjects. Military and civilian." Tikral's beak clicked sharply. "This could be a deception. How do we know this sleep is real?" "Then watch us," Ji-won said. Her voice was calm but firm. "Study us. Scan us. Monitor every brainwave. We have nothing to hide." 3 days later, Hyun-woo lay in a medical pod designed for the study. Sensors covered his head like a web of silver threads. Through the transparent wall, he could see Velenith and her team preparing their equipment. The insectoid scientist moved with precise, efficient motions. "Can you hear me, Dr. Hyun-woo?" Velenith's voice came through a speaker. "Yes, we will monitor you throughout your sleep cycle. Try to relax." Hyun-woo almost laughed. Relaxing while a dozen alien scientists watched his every brainwave was not easy. But he closed his eyes. He had trained himself to sleep in difficult situations during his years in research stations. Within 20 minutes, he felt himself drifting away. In the observation room, Velenith watched the monitors with growing confusion. The human's body had indeed become still. His breathing slowed. His muscles relaxed. But his brain activity did not decrease as she had expected. "This makes no sense," said Korth, one of her assistants. "His body rests, but his mind accelerates." The monitor showed waves of activity pulsing through different regions of Hyun-woo's brain. Colors shifted on the displays, painting pictures of neural storms. "What is he doing?" Tikrol had joined them, unable to resist his curiosity despite his skepticism. "I don't know," Velenith admitted. "His consciousness has not stopped. It has transformed into something else." They watched for hours. Every 90 minutes, the human's brain activity would surge. His eyes would move rapidly beneath his closed eyelids. The scanners detected muscle twitches, changes in heart rate, fluctuations in body temperature. In the pod next to Hyun-woo's Ambassador Ji-won slept. Her patterns matched his. In the 12 other pods arranged throughout the medical bay, the same phenomenon repeated. Every human brain transformed during sleep into something active and strange. "They are not resting," Velenith said softly. "They are doing something." "But what?" The next morning, Hyun-woo woke refreshed. He stretched and smiled at the camera. Through the speaker, Velenith's voice sounded strained. Dr. Hyanwu, what were you doing during your sleep? Sleeping, he said, confused. Just normal sleep. Your brain was extremely active. More active than when you are awake in some regions. What were you thinking about? Hyanwu paused. I don't remember much. I had some dreams, I think. Dreams? Mental experiences during sleep. Images, sensations, stories that play in our minds. Most of them fade when we wake up. Velenith was silent for a long moment. Your mind creates narratives while your body is vulnerable? Yes, everyone dreams. The scientist turned to her team. We need to understand these dreams. They may be the key to understanding human sleep. Over the following week, the study intensified. The aliens developed more sophisticated scanning technology. They analyzed the content of the neural activity during human sleep. Patterns emerged. Strange, disturbing patterns. Velenith called an emergency meeting with the human delegation. Hyanwu and Ji-Wan entered the conference room to find it filled with concerned aliens. We have detected something troubling, Velenith began. During your dreams, your brains simulate combat scenarios. Repeatedly. Hyanwu glanced at Ji-Wan. The ambassador's face remained neutral. Can you explain this? Tikrul demanded. Why do you practice violence in your sleep? We don't practice it intentionally, Hyanwu said. Dreams aren't under our conscious control. They just happen. But the patterns are clear, Velenith insisted. She displayed neural maps on the holographic projector. These regions of the brain light up during threat assessment. These areas process fighting strategies. These sections rehearse physical conflict. Every single human subject shows these patterns multiple times per night. The room fell silent. The aliens stared at the humans with new wariness. Ji-Wan stood slowly. You want to know why humans dream of fighting? Yes, Velenith said. Because our species survived by being ready for danger. Every night our brains prepare us for threats. It's not something we choose. It's something we are? Tikrul's feathers stood on end. You are a species that trains for war even in sleep. How can we trust you? Hyanwu felt frustration rising in his chest. We don't want to fight anyone. These dreams are just remnants of our evolution. They don't control us. But even as he said it, he saw doubt in the aliens' eyes. They had discovered something about humanity that even humans rarely thought about. Every night, in the darkness of sleep, human minds became battlegrounds. They rehearsed violence, imagined conflicts, prepared for wars that might never come. Velenith looked at her data one more time. We must understand this better. We must know why your species imagines war in its most vulnerable moments. The study would continue. But now, the question had changed. It was no longer about whether humans needed sleep. It was about what that sleep revealed about human nature itself. The breakthrough came 2 weeks later. Dr. Sumin adjusted the neural mapping device with careful precision. She was younger than Hyanwu, barely past 30, but her expertise in brain imaging had made her essential to the project. The new equipment hummed with power as it calibrated. This should allow us to visualize dream content, she explained to the assembled Concordat Council. Not perfectly, but enough to show what humans experience during sleep. Counselor Mreth, an amphibious being whose skin glistened with moisture, leaned forward. You will show us these war simulations? We'll show you our dreams, Sumin corrected gently, whatever they happen to be. The council had demanded this demonstration. Word of the initial findings had spread through the Concordat. Many species now question whether humans should be allowed full membership. A species that dreamed of violence every night could not be trusted. They argued. Captain Doyan volunteered to be the first subject. He was a veteran, a man who had commanded ships in actual combat. His face bore small scars from battles fought in humanity's early space expansion. He settled into the advanced scanning pod without hesitation. Ready when you are, he said, the lights dimmed. The council watched as Doyan's body relaxed into sleep. Within minutes, his brain entered the first dream cycle. The holographic projector flickered to life. What appeared above the council? Table made several aliens recoil. The visualization was fragmented, abstract, but clear enough. Doyan stood on a ship's bridge. Alarms blared. Enemy vessels approached from multiple vectors. His dream self barked orders, coordinating defensive fire. Ships exploded in silent flashes. The dream shifted. Now he fought hand-to-hand in a corridor. The enemies had no clear features, just shapes and shadows. He moved with brutal efficiency. The dream changed again. A peaceful scene this time, Doyan walking through a garden. But then the sky darkened. Threats emerged from nowhere. He was fighting again. Protecting people he couldn't quite see. The visualization ended as Doyan entered a deeper sleep phase. The council sat in stunned silence. Tekrol spoke first. He dreams of killing us. Some of those enemy shapes resembled our ships, Mreth agreed, her voice tight. Hyun-woo had expected this. Dreams take fragments from memory and mix them with imagination. Captain Doyan has seen your ships? His sleeping mind uses that information randomly. It doesn't mean he wants to fight you. Then why does he dream of fighting at all? Tekrol demanded. Before anyone could answer, Sumin spoke up. I'll go next. I'm not military. I've never been in combat. Let's see what a civilian dreams. The council agreed. Sumin took Doyan's place in the pod. She fell asleep quickly, her breathing deep and even. Her dreams appeared in the hologram. The council watched, expecting something peaceful. They were wrong. Sumin stood in her laboratory, working on an equation. The numbers began to attack her, becoming physical threats she had to fight off. She ran through corridors pursued by abstract dangers. She struggled against overwhelming odds to reach a goal she couldn't name. The dream shifted to her defending her research data from thieves, fighting them with desperate intensity, even in sleep, even in a scientist's mind. Conflict emerged. Veleneth's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of deep agitation. This cannot be normal. This cannot be healthy. It is for us, Hyun-woo said quietly. We call some of these nightmares. They've always been part of human experience. Always? Mreth's large eyes widened. Throughout your entire history? Yes, the testing continued over the following days. Every human subject showed similar patterns. The frequency varied, but the theme remained constant. Humans dreamed of threats, of conflicts, of dangers to overcome. Even children's dreams, when tested, revealed scenarios of being chased, of falling, of facing fears. Veleneth compiled the data obsessively. She barely rested, though her species needed far less downtime than humans. The numbers told a story that disturbed her deeply. Humans dream of fighting 4 to 5 times more frequently than any other species we've studied, she reported to the council. And we've studied 47 different intelligent species. Perhaps we should end this application for membership, Tekrol suggested. Before it's too late. Ambassador Jiwon had remained quiet during most of these sessions. Now she stood, commanding attention without raising her voice. Council members, I understand your concern. But you're missing something important. What are we missing? Mreth asked. The reason behind these dreams. The purpose they serve. Jiwon walked to the display showing Veleneth's data. Dr. Veleneth, how many violent conflicts has my species engaged in during the past 100 years? The scientist consulted her records. 37 documented conflicts. And how many has the Feathered Communion engaged in? 41. The Amphibious Collective? 53. Jiwon nodded. So despite dreaming of violence constantly, humans fight no more than other species. In fact, we fight less than some. Why do you think that is? The council had no answer. Because we know what violence looks like, Jiwon continued. We rehearse it every night. We see its costs, feel its weight, understand its consequences. These dreams you find so disturbing? They're not making us violent. They're teaching us why violence should be avoided. That's speculation, Tekrol said, but his voice lacked its earlier certainty. Hyun-woo joined Jiwon. Let's test it. Scan Ambassador Jiwon's dreams. She's been in actual combat. See what someone who has truly fought dreams about. The council agreed. That night, Jiwan slept under the scanners. The visualization of her dreams played out for the watching aliens. They saw battles, yes. Jiwan relived moments from her military career, conflicts she had survived. But the dreams held more than violence. She dreamed of soldiers she had saved, of enemies she had chosen not to kill, of peace treaties signed after wars. She dreamed of preventing conflicts, of standing between fighting forces, of protecting civilians, and then came a dream that made the entire council fall silent. In the visualization, Jiwan faced an enemy force. But the enemies wore Concordat uniforms. Ships of every species in the Alliance attacked human colonies. Jiwan fought desperately, trying to defend her people. The dream was vivid, detailed, terrifying. When she woke, Mreth confronted her immediately. "You dream of us as enemies. You imagine war between our peoples." Jiwan met her gaze steadily. "Yes, I dream of fighting everyone, including other humans, including myself sometimes. How can we trust you?" "Because I've been having those dreams for 20 years, counselor. And in all that time, I've worked for peace. I've negotiated treaties. I've prevented conflicts. My dreams show me what war looks like. They remind me why I must never let it happen." Velenith studied the data from Jiwan's scan. "Your stress levels during these violent dreams are elevated. You experience them as negative, threatening." "Of course we do. They're nightmares. But you have them anyway. You cannot stop them." "No," Jiwan admitted. "We cannot stop dreaming. It's part of being human." The scientist turned to her colleagues. "I'm beginning to understand. These dreams are not practice for violence. They are warnings against it. The human brain shows itself the costs of conflict repeatedly, night after night." "Or," Tikro countered, "their brains are simply revealing their true nature." "A species born for war." Hyanwu shook his head. "We're not born for war. We're born ready for danger. There's a difference." The debate continued late into the night cycle. The council remained divided. But Velenith kept studying the data, searching for the truth hidden in humanity's dreams. She sensed they were missing something crucial, some key that would explain why evolution had created a species that tortured itself with violent visions every time it closed its eyes. The answer would come soon. But it would take a crisis to reveal it. The Concordat research team decided they needed to understand human evolution. Velenith requested permission to travel to Earth itself, to study where this strange species had originated. The council approved. Though Tikral objected strongly, Dr. Minho met them at the landing site in what had once been called Korea. He was older than the other human researchers. His hair completely gray, his face lined with years of fieldwork. He specialized in human evolution and had spent decades piecing together humanity's past. "Welcome to Earth," Minho said, gesturing at the landscape around them. "This is where we learn to dream." Velenith's team had brought portable scanning equipment. They set up a temporary research station near an ancient cave system where early humans had once lived. Researcher Quinn, a reptilian scientist whose species had evolved on a peaceful world, examined the cave paintings with fascination. "These images are thousands of years old?" Quinn asked. "About 40,000 years, Minho confirmed. "Look at what they painted." The walls showed hunters pursuing large animals, predators threatening human figures, battles between groups. Even in humanity's earliest art, violence and danger dominated. "Your ancestors were obsessed with threats," Quinn observed. "Our ancestors were surrounded by threats," Minho corrected. "Come, let me show you something." He led them to a museum he had arranged to open specially for the visit. Inside, holographic displays recreated Earth's environment during humanity's evolution. Velenith watched as the scenes played out. Ancient humans walked across open grasslands. They had no natural armor, no claws, no venom. They were relatively slow, physically weak compared to the predators around them. Yet they survived. How? Velenith asked. Minho smiled. Intelligence, cooperation, and sleep that prepared them for anything. The hologram showed early humans sleeping in groups on the ground. No safe burrows. No protective shells. Just soft flesh exposed to the night. Your species evolved sleeping in one of the most dangerous environments imaginable, Quinn said, his voice filled with disbelief. With predators all around? Exactly, Minho said. And that shaped how we sleep. Our brains developed a system. During sleep, they would run simulations, scenarios. What if a predator attacks? What if another tribe threatens us? What if we get separated from the group? Every possibility rehearsed in dreams. Velanath's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. A paranoia protocol? Your sleep evolved as a defensive mechanism. More than that, Minho continued. He brought up more data on the displays. We've studied sleep patterns across all stages of human development. Children, especially young children, have the most intense dreams. The data showed that human children experience nightmares far more frequently than adults. Dreams of being chased. Dreams of monsters. Dreams of falling, of being lost, of facing impossible dangers. Why would evolution make children suffer? Quinn asked. Because children were the most vulnerable, Minho explained. Their brains needed the most practice. Every nightmare was a lesson in survival. Young Ho, a security officer who had accompanied the expedition, spoke up. I still have nightmares sometimes. Last week I dreamed about protecting the research station from invaders. I've never seen an invader. But my brain creates the scenario anyway. May we scan your dreams? Velanath asked. That night, they set up the equipment in the research station. Young Ho slept while the aliens monitored his brain activity. His dreams appeared in the holographic display. Velanath watched with growing understanding. Young Ho's dreams showed him defending others, fighting to protect his teammates, sacrificing himself so others could escape. The scenarios were detailed and complex. He's not dreaming about his own survival, she said softly. He's dreaming about protecting the group. That's the next level, Minho said. Humans didn't survive alone. We survived in groups. So our dreams evolved to include group defense scenarios, tactical preparation for protecting others. Over the following days, they tested more subjects. They studied humans from different backgrounds, different ages, different cultures. The patterns held consistent. One critical experiment changed everything. They found volunteers who had been prevented from entering REM sleep for several days. The results alarmed the entire research team. Without REM sleep, without dreams, humans deteriorated rapidly. Their emotions became unstable. Their thinking grew confused. They made poor decisions. Some began hallucinating while awake. They need to dream, Velanath reported to the council via communication link. Without it, they cannot function properly. Tikral's holographic image flickered. So they are dependent on these violent simulations? It appears so. The human brain requires this nightly threat assessment to maintain psychological balance. Minho added more context. We believe it's a release valve. Humans experience stress and anxiety. The dreams process these feelings through symbolic scenarios. Violence in dreams prevents violence in reality. Quinn had been studying comparative evolution data. I've analyzed 40 species now. Every species that evolved as a predator shows some dream activity. But humans are unique. They were simultaneously predators and prey. They hunted, but they were also hunted. This dual nature created sleep patterns unlike anything else we've seen. They weaponized their own vulnerability, Velanath said, repeating a phrase she had used before. They turned sleep, a dangerous necessity, into a training ground. Back in the cave system, Minho showed them evidence of ancient sleeping arrangements. Early humans had taken turns watching for danger while others slept. But even the watchers would eventually need to sleep. So every human brain became its own watchman, alert for threats even in unconsciousness. It's brilliant, Velanath admitted. Terrifying but brilliant. Tikral disagreed. It's proof that humans are fundamentally shaped by violence. They cannot escape it even in rest. But Young Ho challenged this interpretation. I dream of fighting to protect others. Ambassador Jiwan dreams of preventing wars. Dr. Sumin dreams of overcoming obstacles. Yes, we frame these things as conflicts. But the underlying purpose is positive. You're applying meaning to random neural firings, Tikral argued. Then explain why we need them, Young-ho replied. If dreams are random, why do humans fall apart without them? Why does every human civilization throughout history report similar dream patterns? Evolution doesn't maintain expensive processes without reason. Velaneth intervened. He's correct. The evidence suggests dreams serve a specific function. They maintain psychological stability while preparing the mind for crisis management. Minho brought up historical data. Look at human achievements. Art, science, exploration, cooperation, all accomplished by a species that dreams of danger every night. We don't let our dreams control us. We use them. The research team spent weeks on Earth, gathering every piece of data they could find. They studied brain scans of sleeping humans in different environments. They analyzed dream journals kept by humans throughout history. They examined how different cultures interpreted their dreams. One evening, Velaneth sat with Hyunwoo watching the sunset over the ancient landscape. I'm beginning to understand, she said. Your species didn't choose violence. You chose survival. And survival on this world required preparing for violence. Yes, Hyunwoo agreed. But other species survived without this adaptation. Other species had different challenges. They evolved different solutions. This was ours. Velaneth was quiet for a long time. The Council fears what you might do with this ability. A species that trains for combat every night could become dangerous. Or, Hyunwoo said gently, a species that understands danger so intimately might be the best at preventing it. That night, the entire research team slept under mutual monitoring. Humans and aliens both. The comparison was striking. Alien dreams were peaceful, simple, focused on basic needs and social bonding. Human dreams remained complex, often troubling, filled with challenges and conflicts, but Velaneth noticed something else in the data. Human dreams, despite their violent content, led to more stable emotional states upon waking. The aliens' peaceful dreams left them less prepared for unexpected stress. It's a trade-off, she realized. Humans sacrifice peaceful sleep for mental preparation. They pay the price of nightmares for the benefit of readiness. Quinn asked the question they were all thinking. But what happens when this readiness is truly tested? What happens when humans face real danger, not just dreams? They would learn the answer soon. Crisis was coming, though none of them knew it yet. And when it arrived, humanity's nightly training would be put to the ultimate test. The attack came without warning. Alarms screamed through the research station at what humans would call 3 in the morning. Most of the Concordat scientists were in their rest cycles, their various species versions of sleep. The humans had been asleep too, but they were awake within seconds. Hyunwoo rolled out of his bunk, his heart pounding but his mind already clear. Years of nightmares had prepared him for sudden danger. He grabbed his communication device and ran toward the command center. In the corridor, he nearly collided with Velaneth. The insectoid scientist's movements were jerky, confused. Her species didn't experience sudden threats in their evolutionary history. The shock of the alarms had disoriented her completely. What's happening? She asked, her voice distorted by panic. I don't know yet. Follow me. They reached the command center to find chaos. The station's defensive coordinator, a being named Rilf, stood frozen before the tactical displays. His species had evolved on a world with no predators. He had trained for emergencies. But training wasn't instinct. Commander Yeoman was already there, despite being in the civilian quarters moments before. The human military officer assessed the situation with rapid glances at the displays. Calrex raiders, he announced. 6 ships. They've breached the outer hull in sections 7 and 12. How did they get through our defenses? Rilf asked, his voice shaking. They used a tactic we've never seen before, Yeoman said. They're adapting faster than our response protocols. Captain Doyon ran into the command center, still pulling on his jacket. Behind him came Yoonji, the station's chief engineer. Both humans looked alert despite being woken from sleep. Both moved with purpose while the alien crew members stumbled through the confusion. "Orders, Commander?" Doyan asked. Yamin was already at the tactical station, his fingers flying over controls. "Doyan, take a team to Section 7. Stop their advance. Unji, I need the backup power rerouted to the defensive shields." "The raiders cut the main conduits," Yunji said, checking her handheld scanner. "I'll need to go through the sublevels." "Too dangerous," Rilth protested. "Those areas aren't secured." "I can handle it," Yunji said simply. And she was gone before anyone could argue. Hyun-woo watched in amazement as the humans shifted into combat mode. It was as if a switch had flipped. These were the same people he worked with every day, scientists and diplomats and engineers. But now they moved with practiced efficiency. Making decisions without hesitation, Doyan grabbed Ambassador Jawan as she entered the command center. "I need you coordinating evacuation of the civilian sections." Jiwan nodded once and turned to the communication systems. Within seconds, she was issuing clear, calm instructions to the panicking aliens throughout the station. All non-essential personnel to the safe rooms. Move in groups of 5 or more. Stay calm. Follow the lit pathways. Her voice cut through the chaos like a blade. People began to respond, following her instructions even as explosions shook the station. Velenith stood in the center of the command center, watching the humans work. Her scientific mind tried to process what she was seeing. These people had been asleep minutes ago. Now they functioned as if they had been preparing for this exact scenario, and in a way, they had been. Doyan reached Section 7 with Young-ho and 3 other human security officers. The Calrex had breached the hull and were pouring through. The raiders were silicon-based life forms, their bodies crystalline and hard. They moved with ruthless efficiency, but Doyan had dreamed of scenarios like this 1,000 times. His hands moved to defensive positions without conscious thought. "Young-ho, take the left flank. Use the support columns for cover. They'll funnel through that corridor." "Got it." The humans fell into formation, using the station's architecture against the invaders. When the Calrex pushed forward, they met coordinated resistance. The humans didn't panic. They didn't freeze. They fought as if they had trained together for years, though this was their first real combat as a team. In the sublevels, Yunji crawled through maintenance tunnels with fires burning around her. Smoke filled the air, making breathing difficult. Warning lights flashed in patterns that would have confused most people, but Yunji had dreamed of disasters. Her nightmares had shown her flames and darkness and impossible choices. Her hands stayed steady as she rerouted power cables. Even as another explosion rocked the station. She reached the main power junction and assessed the damage. 3 conduits were severed. She needed to bridge them with temporary connections. Working in near darkness with enemies potentially nearby. Her training said it couldn't be done. Her dreams had shown her it could. She worked. In the command center. Yamin coordinated the defense like he was playing a complex game. But this wasn't a game he had learned in training. This was a game he had played in his mind every night for decades. "Redirect Team 3 to Section 12. The raiders are trying to flank us there." "How do you know?" Rilf asked. "Because it's what I would do," Yamin said. "Velenith, I need your people to seal the medical bay. If they take that section, we lose our wounded. But I don't know how to. I'll walk you through it." "Go now," Velenith ran. Despite her fear, despite her confusion, she trusted the human commander. He spoke with such certainty, such confidence. He had seen this before somehow. Prepared for it. Hyun-woo helped coordinate the evacuation with Jiwan. Civilians of a dozen species flooded through the corridors, many of them terrified and irrational. Some aliens froze in place, unable to process the danger. Others ran in wrong directions, making things worse. But Jiwan's voice remained calm. "That's right, keep moving. You're doing well. Follow the lights. Stay together." She anticipated panic points before they happened. When a group of bird-like aliens started to stampede, she had humans waiting to redirect them calmly. When one species couldn't see the emergency lighting properly, She had already assigned guides with suitable vision to help them. Hyun-woo realized she was managing the chaos as if she had experienced it before. And in her dreams she had every nightmare about protecting others, every scenario about coordinating under stress, every imagined crisis had prepared her for this moment. The battle lasted 3 hours. The Calrecs were skilled raiders, but they hadn't expected the humans to respond so effectively. They expected fear and chaos. They found coordination and determination. Doyeon's team held Section 7 until reinforcements arrived. Yoonji restored power to the defensive shields, limiting the raiders' access. Yemen's tactical decisions kept the Calrecs off balance, unable to establish strong points. When Concordat military vessels finally arrived to help, they found the situation already under control. The humans had repelled the initial assault and secured the civilian population. Casualties were minimal. In the aftermath, the command center fell quiet except for damage reports and status updates. Yemen looked exhausted, his shoulders finally sagging. Doyeon had a cut above his eye from flying debris. Yoonji's clothes were scorched and torn, but they had succeeded. Velenith approached Yemen slowly. "How did you do this?" The commander looked at her with tired eyes. "Do what?" "You were asleep. Then within minutes you were fighting as if you had prepared for this exact scenario." Yemen smiled faintly. "In a way I had. We all had." Velenith's mandibles clicked softly as understanding bloomed. "Your dreams. You've been rehearsing crisis response your entire lives." "Every human has," Jawan said, joining them. She had helped evacuate over 300 civilians with minimal injuries. "Every nightmare, every violent dream, every scenario our sleeping minds created. They were preparing us for this." Young-ho laughed, the sound slightly hysterical with relief. "I dreamed about defending this station last week. I thought it was just my brain being paranoid. Turns out it was practice." The other humans nodded. They were shaking with adrenaline, processing what had happened. But none of them seemed surprised that they had responded effectively. On some level, they had always known they could. Tikrol entered the command center. The bird-like diplomat looked shaken. "I froze," he admitted. "When the alarm sounded, I couldn't move. Couldn't think? But you humans, you were ready immediately." "Not immediately," Hyun-woo said honestly. "I was terrified. My heart was pounding. But my body knew what to do anyway." "Because you've been afraid before," Velenith said. "In your dreams. You've practiced being afraid and acting anyway?" Yoonji wiped soot from her face. "Every human has nightmares. We grow up learning that fear doesn't have to mean paralysis. We experience terror safely in sleep. So when real danger comes, we're not experiencing it for the first time." The command center fell silent as the aliens absorbed this revelation. The humans, bloodied and exhausted, had saved them all. And they had done it not despite their violent dreams, but because of them. Outside, stars continued their eternal dance, unaware of what had just been proven in this small station. Humanity's nightmares, the source of so much Concordat concern, had proven to be exactly what made them invaluable allies. The Galactic Concordat Council chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from 73 species had gathered for the final verdict on humanity's application for full membership. The attack on the research station had changed everything. Velenith stood at the central podium, her forearms holding data tablets. The insectoid scientist had spent the past week compiling every piece of research from the sleep study. Now she would present her final conclusions. "Counselors," she began, her voice steady despite her nervousness. "I have studied human sleep for 3 months. I have monitored over 200 individual humans across all age groups and backgrounds. And I have come to understand something profound about this species." The holographic displays activated, showing brain scans and statistical analyses. "Human sleep is not rest," Velenith continued. "It is preparation. Every night, the average human brain generates approximately 5 distinct threat scenarios. These range from simple dangers to complex crisis situations. Over a year, this amounts to 1,825 simulated challenges. She brought up comparative data. By age 30, the average human has experienced over 50,000 dangerous situations in their dreams. They have practiced fear, practiced decision-making under stress, practiced survival skills that they may never consciously remember. Counselor Mreth leaned forward. You're saying their nightmares are a form of training? More than training, Velenith said. They are evolutionary preparation. Humans evolved in an environment where constant vigilance meant survival. Their brains developed a system to maintain this vigilance even during necessary rest periods. Researcher Quinn joined her at the podium. The reptilian scientist had become fascinated by human evolution during their time on Earth. We analyzed the sleep patterns of all predator species in the Concordat database, Quinn said. Most show minimal dream activity. But humans are unique because they were both predator and prey. They hunted, but they were also hunted. This dual nature created a sleep system that prepares them for both roles. Tikrol spoke up from his council seat. And the violence in their dreams? The combat simulations? You're telling us these are beneficial. I'm telling you they are necessary, Velenith replied. We tested what happens when humans are deprived of REM sleep, the stage where most dreams occur. Within days, their cognitive functions decline dramatically. They become emotionally unstable, make poor decisions, and show signs of psychological breakdown. She displayed brain scans showing the differences between rested and sleep-deprived humans. Humans need to dream. They need to experience fear in a safe context. It maintains their psychological balance and sharpens their crisis response capabilities. Ambassador Jiwan stood to address the council. Her uniform still showed signs of the recent battle, though she had cleaned the worst of the damage. I know you're concerned about a species that dreams of violence, she said. But I ask you to consider what we do with those dreams. We don't act on them. We process them. We learn from them. She walked to stand beside Velenith. I've been dreaming of combat for 40 years. And in those 40 years, I've worked to prevent every conflict I could. My dreams didn't make me violent. They made me understand the cost of violence. Commander Yemen joined them. During the Raider attack, we didn't have time to think. We acted on instinct. But those instincts had been shaped by decades of dreams. Every nightmare about protecting others, every scenario about coordinating under stress, they all came together when we needed them. Dr. Sumin presented additional data. We've studied the correlation between dream frequency and real-world behavior. Humans who experience more nightmares actually show higher levels of empathy and better crisis management skills. The dreams don't desensitize us to danger. They sensitize us to consequences. Captain Doyon spoke about the battle. I moved through that fight like I'd trained for it. But I never trained for that specific situation. My dreams had shown me pieces of it. My sleeping mind had prepared me without my conscious knowledge. Yunji added her perspective. I dream about disasters constantly. System failures, fires, explosions. I used to think they were just anxiety. But when the raiders cut our power and I had to work in darkness with fire around me, I knew what to do. I'd been there before, in my dreams. Young-ho was the last human to speak. I'm young. I haven't been in many real crisis situations, but I've been in thousands of dream crises. When the attack happened, I was scared, terrified, but I could function despite the fear, because my dreams had taught me that fear doesn't have to equal paralysis. Velenith returned to the center of the chamber. Counselors, I was initially disturbed by human dreams. Like many of you, I saw them as evidence of a violent nature. But I was wrong. Human dreams are not about loving violence. They are about understanding it. She displayed footage from the Raider attack, showing humans moving efficiently through chaos while many aliens froze or panicked. Humans are the only species that rehearses tragedy nightly. They simulate loss, practice grief, experience fear in controlled doses. This doesn't make them dangerous. It makes them resilient. Tikrol stood slowly. The bird-like diplomat had opposed human membership since the beginning. But his feathers lay flat now, a sign of acceptance rather than agitation. I was wrong, he said simply. I saw humans dream of fighting my people, and I assumed they wanted to fight us. I didn't understand they dream of fighting everyone, including themselves. It's not about desire. It's about preparation. He turned to face Jiwan directly. You saved my life during the attack. You evacuated my delegation when I was too confused to act. You dreamed of fighting me, but when danger came, you protected me. I understand now. Counselor Mreth spoke next. The other Concordat species evolved in relatively safe environments. We developed intelligence and cooperation, yes. But we never needed to maintain constant vigilance. Humans did, and that vigilance became part of their sleep itself. Dr. Minho, who had traveled from Earth for the final vote, added context. Every human civilization throughout history has told stories about their dreams. They've painted them, written them down, tried to interpret them. Because even ancient humans knew their dreams were important, even if they didn't understand why. Velenith brought up her final data set. I want to share one more finding. During the Raider attack, we monitored the sleep of both human and non-human survivors in the following nights. The humans experienced an increase in nightmares as expected, but something else happened too. She showed comparative brain scans. The humans who had nightmares about the attack recovered from trauma symptoms faster than expected. Their dreams were processing the experience, integrating it, learning from it. The non-human survivors who don't have complex dreams showed slower psychological recovery. So human dreams serve a therapeutic function as well, Quinn observed. They process real experiences through simulation, helping humans adapt and learn. Exactly, Velenith confirmed. Humans dream of war so they can learn to build peace. They imagine danger so they can create safety. They rehearse tragedy so they can prevent it. The council chamber fell silent. Every species representative considered what they had learned. Finally, the vote was called. One by one, the councilors registered their decisions. The holographic display showed the results in real time. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would be granted full membership in the Galactic HFY as the chamber erupted in approval. Velenith found herself standing beside Haiyan Wu. The human doctor who had volunteered for the first scans all those months ago smiled at her. Thank you, he said, for understanding us. Thank you, Velenith replied, for teaching me that strength comes in unexpected forms. That night, Haiyan Wu slept in his quarters on the research station. Velenith watched his brain activity from the lab one last time. She saw the familiar patterns of REM sleep beginning. She knew he was dreaming. In his dream, Haiyan Wu stood in a medical bay treating wounded people. A crisis unfolded around him. Fires burned. Alarms sounded. But he worked calmly, saving lives despite the chaos. Velenith realized this wasn't a nightmare about violence. It was a dream about purpose. About having the strength to help others when help was needed most. She thought about her own species' simple dreams, focused on basic needs and social bonding. They were peaceful dreams, comfortable dreams. But they didn't prepare her people for the challenges that the universe could present. Humans paid a price for their complex dreams. They experienced fear nightly. They wrestled with imagined dangers. They could never truly rest in the way other species did, but that price bought them something invaluable: readiness, resilience, the ability to face the unexpected and act. Anyway, the galaxy was not a safe place. Dangers existed. Crises would come. And now the Concordat had allies who understood danger intimately. Humans who dreamed of threats not because they loved violence, but because they took the protection of others seriously. Velenith updated her final report with one last observation. Humanity's capacity to imagine violence, refined through millions of years of evolution and reinforced nightly through dreams, does not make them dangerous to the galaxy. It makes them its best defenders. Species that evolved in safety cannot protect those under threat. But humans who dream of danger every night